The sea is often regarded as terrifying. The way light barely fades through the surface, and the fact that if you were to place the tallest thing in the world, Mount Everest, into the ocean, it would still not reach the bottom. Not even mentioning that within all of that lurks these Lovecraftian and monstrous creatures that are almost impossible to decipher. What makes the ocean so terrifying is the amount of unknown that lies beneath. But it's also kinda calming, don't you think? The waves moving along as your boat drifts, and the way the world feels most natural at sea. You are essentially at the heart of nature. There is barely any civilization around you, and the only human thing that remains is you and your boat. It's these calming times that makes us truly appreciate how relaxing everything is. I think the ocean is given too much hate for the amount of unknown that resides within it, and I take that back. The ocean is fucking terrifying. This is Dredge. It's a fishing game where you casually just live your life as a fisherman. You fish here, dredge some stuff there, and repeat. As you can see, the gameplay is extremely simple. So simple, it seems boring, and that would be true if the setting was anywhere but the sea. You see, got it. The dredge is a little odd at times. You can't figure it out, but something feels wrong. At times it feels calming, but also disturbing. Something is wrong with these waters, inhabitants, and even the fish. I'm gonna say it now. This game is one of the most terrifying experiences I've ever had. Now let's get this out of the way. I'm not a horror enjoyer. In fact, I'm an absolute coward. Every time I watch something horror related and I feel scares coming, I immediately take off my headphones. Or scream prematurely so that my voice drowns out the jump scare. I'm not lying, I actually do this.
Yeah! Oh, chicken, I miss you, I'm about to fuck you! Hey, stop! Why? I just don't get it. I always catch you fuckers watching this sick shit.
So coming into Dredge, I was feeling a little bit hesitant. But I never stopped playing due to the gameplay loop and the whole atmosphere of it. Those dreadful moments I had while playing were also shared with some of the most serene moments I've ever had playing a game. I know I'm supposed to be convincing you I'm buying this game, but knowing so much about it ruins everything. Short summary, the game is extremely easy. You fish, play minigames to get fish. By the way, not every minigame is the same, so there's a bit of variety so you don't get bored. You're also going to be doing quests by asking the locals around. They're pretty much fetch quests, but the good thing about these is that they're extremely simple to do. They really don't take as long as it seems, and are also not necessary at times. There are really only a few must-do quests in the game, and most are just ways to get upgrades. There is a main quest, by the way, so you're not just going to be fishing and selling the whole time. You can also upgrade your boat by dredging materials around the map, and unless you like moving at a snail's pace, these are necessary. So if you like farming a bit, and don't mind fetch quests, then try it. The real reason to play this game though, is the Lovecraftian atmosphere.
This is Howard Phillips Lovecraft, a writer and resident of Providence, Rhode Island.
I don't know much about Lovecraft in all the books. I only know the classic stuff such as Cthulhu, Yog-Sothoth, Nyarlathotep, what the fuck his name is. The N-word monster, that one too. But the main thing I hear about Lovecraftian horror is the fear of the unknown. As they say,
and you always fear what you don't understand.
As your mind creates the most horrifying answer that I could think of. And the world of Dredge exemplifies this perfectly. Something is up with this place, and you slowly uncover the truth behind the unknown. The world of Dredge makes you feel so isolated that whenever you find a town or familiar face, you're immediately swept over with this feeling of relief. It really does feel like you're part of the world, and the world doesn't revolve around you. There are so many moments in this game where you truly feel like you're at the heart of the sea, and it could drown you at any moment if it really wanted to. So please, try this game out. It's a one-of-a-kind experience, and even if you hate horror like I do, it's well worth it. It isn't all just scares. The game is stunning and relaxing whenever you get into the fisherman's grind. I'd often play videos in the background while farming, and it really does feel like I'm out at sea with a radio just casually fishing. Finally, I can wear this hat with pride. Now, to those who won't buy the game, which I suspect is going to be a lot of you, in that case, your loss, brace yourselves, because it's going to get really dreadful soon. Now, to keep it simple, I'll just talk about the game mechanics and the main areas of the game, as well as talk about the main story. So basically, I'm just spoiling the game. The game starts out with you crashing immediately into a cliff. What's strange though was that despite there being a lighthouse above, you had no clue there was, due to the fog being that thick. And it seemed to have come out of nowhere as well. After all that commotion, you wake up on the dock at a town where the mayor greets you. He pretty much calls you stupid for not seeing the lighthouse when it's directly above you, and also tells you that your ship was beyond repair. So, you've been given a new boat, and is ordered to immediately get some fish. I might as well quickly explain the fishing here as well. Fishing is, as I said, simple. Whenever you see a school of fish huddled together, there will be an input to fish. You'll then be put through a minigame where you have to click the green parts to catch the fish. Clicking the green parts makes it go way faster. Missing will halt the fishing process. Fishes can run out in the area and slowly respawn as the days go on. So you might want to wait a bit after emptying out an area, unless you like spawn camping one fish every 2 days. Time also passes whenever you fish, and the nighttime can be very rewarding and dangerous, so decide whether or not you really want to fish before doing so. Coming back to the dock, you are again greeted by the mayor, where he tells you the bad news. Remember when I said your boat was broken? Well, how are you selling a new one? Well, turns out this is a boat that the mayor loaned to you, and now you gotta pay it off. Is this perhaps the main story? Working towards paying off debt like an average college student?
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Nah, you can get it done like less than an hour. And how you do it is with the fishmonger. The Chad himself. Bro stays up all day and night cutting fish up for the town. Truly, a wearer of the sacred hat. The fishmonger is where you sell your fish. By the way, whenever you sell fish, part of it will go to your debt, so your wallet isn't going to be stacked in the beginning. I forgot to mention that fish have 4 states: fresh, stale, rotting, and rot. Fresh being the peak condition and sold at the highest amount. Stale, while not being mint condition, still pretty good. Rotting is the last minute product that the fishmonger will probably throw out later and also think of you less. And finally, rot. As the description says, the final state of all living beings. The rot consumes. The rot consumes. After leaving the fish stall, the mayor will also introduce you to the shipwright. This lady right here will sell tools and upgrade or repair your boat. Whenever you buy a tool, engine, or light, it will take time to install. Not in the Clash of Clans way where you have to wait a whole week for one tier 5 tower. Instead, it just speeds up time in the game. The time system in this game is very different compared to others. Whenever you move, time moves. If you stop, time doesn't move anymore, but that doesn't mean the whole world stops. Fishing, as I said, speeds up time, and so does installing stuff onto your boat. So you actually gotta think a bit on whether or not you want to fish or upgrade. Unless you want to fish at night, in that case, you can afford to install. That comes with another problem though. Your captain is only human and needs to sleep. Not sleeping can increase his stress and panic, and when he's stressed out, he's stressed out. So plan it out unless you want to make your game more difficult. The dry dock is also here and is used to make space and attachments for more upgrades. To get more space though, you'll need materials elsewhere, like these floating objects in the water. These are spots where you can dredge items in the water. You'll need these to unlock spaces in the dry dock. I got so sick of space issues that I accidentally speedran my way to the maximum space in the dry dock. After a bit of fishing, the mayor will ask you to deliver a package to the Little Marrow, which is a good time to talk about the area we're in. This is the Marrows, the starter area and the place you'll probably be at the most. The Marrows don't have any complicated fishing depths unlike other areas. Right, forgot to mention that fishing has depths. Literally. There are 7 different depths: shallow, coastal, oceanic, mangrove, volcanic, abyssal, and hodal. You'll need certain types of equipment for each of these depths, and you unlock these with research parts. Research parts are acquired by doing quests or sometimes by dredging. Though as I said before, quests are fairly easy to do, so it won't be a pain in the ass to get upgrades unlike other games. Research parts can also be used to unlock engines to speed up your boat, and trust me, you're going to want to do that. Not in a satisfying way, but in a fuck! The Marrows are split between the Greater Marrow and the Little Marrow. The Greater Marrow holds all the stuff I talked about previously, the fishmonger, dry dock, and shipwright, but it also holds your storage. Every dock in the game does that. So you don't have to go back to the starter area in order to store stuff, which is nice. It also has a lighthouse that you can see throughout the whole map, unless you're at the very edge, but do you really want to be here? Now, the Lighter Marrow has a smaller town that has the trader and the painter. The trader takes valuables from any dredges or shipwrecks you find floating around. Just another way to get extra money. The painter, however, is one of the most important parts of the game, because you get to customize the boat. In a small way though, as you only get to customize the colors and also put flags on your boat that you find by dredging. Other than that, the smaller town really doesn't have anything vital going on. You can get a massive upgrade for your lights, but that's really only useful if you like fishing at night. Which I don't because, once again, I am a massive coward. Outside of the main areas of the Greater and Little Marrow are a couple of islands. We'll save this one for last. This one has nothing but a dock, however is important for a side quest. However, we don't care about side quests in this video, so you can look that up yourself. Or play the game. Just saying. Oh hey, a bottle.
Morning of the second day of the honeymoon, and our first day proper. Today we're sailing around the island and inlets at the back of Greater Marrow. I love the rocks here. The layers and colors are so striking. Furthermore, the fishing is relatively poor in these shallows, so I know he will keep his hands on the wheel instead of the rods. He renamed the boat last night. Julie. He did a fancy renaming ceremony and everything. I think he took that more seriously than the wedding. Supposedly, it's very important to perform it correctly, lest you want ill fortune to follow the vessel. He wanted to throw away everything with the old name on it, but I kept the keychain. Ocean's Riches was a good name. I think he has prepared a surprise picnic lunch. I can see the basket half hidden, stuffed under a blanket at the front of the cabin. I love it when he tries to be romantic.
It seems this is an incomplete story. Perhaps there will be more, we'll find them on the map. Anyway, this island sucks, moving on. Next is this one, which at first doesn't seem to have anything going on. But on closer inspection, you can see a hooded figure. In fact, that's their name. Meet the hooded figure, or figures because there's more than one. They are side quests that require fish to quell their hunger. Basically, they'll show you what fish they want, and if you bring it to them, they'll devour it right in front of your face, and give you a book once they're done. Which brings us into the next segue, books. Books are usually given to you by side quests or just by visiting NPC often. Think of them as mini upgrades. Whenever you're fishing, moving, or dredging, your character will read said book over time. Once he finishes the book, you'll get a small upgrade, and these aren't necessary to have, but they can definitely help. The best ones for me are the increased sell prices and reduced buy prices. This helps a lot. Other than that, the hooded figures just chill until like the apocalypse happens or something like that. And finally, the last and most important island. Before that, let's go back a little bit. While fishing, you may encounter some strange stuff. And when I mean strange looking, I mean what the actual fuck is this abomination? These are aberrants. Variants of fish that have gone beyond the realm of human comprehension. Why they are like this is unknown. But they have more significant value for whatever reason. I mean, they kinda look cool. Okay, this one looks sick. The first aberrant you obtain will trigger a special sequence with the fishmonger. The fishmonger grins as he sees it. Afterwards, he feels at the body and touches upon something strange. He then proceeds to cut into it and pull out a delicately patterned handkerchief. Afterwards, an unknown man contacts you from your cabin window, and instead of asking how'd you get in my house, you listen as he tells you to meet him at the Blackstone Isle. Which happens to be the last island we didn't talk about. This is the Blackstone Isle, and is where the collector resides. The collector is odd, much more than any other resident in the Marrows, somehow even more strange than the hooded figure. He looks like an old man, but not to the point of being senile, with large glasses and a crimson and silver book in his hand. You hand over the handkerchief and he requests that you find more artifacts and relics around the map. The rewards for doing this are apparently beyond anything we could imagine. Well, more money couldn't hurt, so a new quest has been established. You can also ask him about the old mayor, but he'll recount him as an old fool. Seems like we got some bad blood here. Other than that, that's about it. More fish resides outside the main area of the Marrows, and also some shipwrecks, but that's all there is to this place. Except for the relic, of course, and more importantly, the night. During the night, the feeling of dread increases by tenfold. Stare into the darkness for too long though, and it feels like something is looking back. This can make you panic, and you do not want to panic. Whenever you panic, your vision gets foggy, eyes start appearing everywhere, rocks begin appearing where they weren't before, and everything around becomes an immediate danger. Which is why you have your trustworthy light. Your light is your counter to the dark, and will bring you more ease. Basically, you'll panic less with it on, but it can run out and needs to be turned on again. However, this doesn't completely get rid of panicking, so it's usually best to rest, unless you're going for some nighttime exclusives. By that, I mean fish that only come out during the night. So if you're going for all fishes in the game, you're probably going to need some upgrades. Okay, so this next part completely traumatized me about the night, and is the reason why I always rest, most of the time. You know how a lot of YouTubers say, "Oh, this is the moment where I thought this game was amazing," or "This is the moment where I want to make a video on this." Well, this is the moment where I want to stop playing the game. You can literally see me panic as I see it. These are night anglers, and this is one of the main reasons why this game should be played blindly. It's too late now. It's honestly perfect gameplay design. At first you think to yourself, "Oh, a fisherman, just like me. Let me go talk to them." And then you just get blindsided right after. Just like the anglerfish in real life. You lower your guard around its bait, and by the time you realize what it is, it's already too late. Props to developers for this, and also fuck you at the same time. Anyway, the night also contains voices, and these voices can make anyone go mad. And that's what they do. These whispers will make your panic meter skyrocket. And what comes from this extreme panic is the phantom shark. This only happens to you outside of the Marrows, but we may as well talk about it here. An extremely large and fast shark will quickly rush towards your boat and damage it. Also, forgot to mention, whenever you have high panic and are in deep water, someone might visit you. This is the Leviathan, and they will chomp you up if you don't get to shallow water as soon as possible. If it's right next to you, go! You have no time to worry if you see it. This can also happen during the day, so basically, you're never safe if you have high panic. So, what did we learn here? Just go to sleep. It's not worth it. After you go back to the dock, you might encounter the lighthouse keeper. She somehow recognizes you even though you've never met her before. You can talk to her and ask about the old mayor, but she'll just say that he was driven mad and left the place. The old mayor's last words before departing, "Throw it back." Hey, I know what you're thinking, right? Don't you dare think about it. I absolutely hate that phrase is just completely ruined now. You know, it's like saying come, alright? But you think of something completely different. Now that we're done with this, let's go and collect the relic that was requested of us. Oh, another bottle.
We had a slight accident yesterday around the shallows at the back of Greater Marrow. A rock seemingly appeared out of nowhere and struck the front of the boat. It did not penetrate the hull, but it jostled us around, and a few items fell overboard into the water. We did not see what they were, which is of some concern, but we believe all important articles are accounted for. He has been checking over some notes from the boat renaming ceremony. He is paranoid that he performed the steps incorrectly. I've never known him to be so superstitious.
Okay, well, it seems like her keeping that keychain of the old boat, Ocean Riches, seems to have caused this small disaster. Anyway, after finding and obtaining the key, you return to the collector, but his reaction is a lot different than you expect. Instead of joy, he seems rather agitated, as he expected more to be on your hand. The key that you obtained is only a part of an item, not the whole thing. After getting himself together, he states that there are probably more relics out there. So, to help you in your adventures, he gives you that reward that he promised. He opens the crimson and silver book in his hand and whispers into it. All of a sudden, your eyes are filled with light, and you stagger briefly. Something has changed. And it's not a bad one, I'll tell you that for sure. You've now unlocked Haste. Haste speeds up your boat by 2 times its speed, and it's amazing. But it does come with some drawbacks. 1. Panic is increased while using it. 2. Use it too much, and now you got a broken engine. If you manage to not overheat and also actively avoid the night, then there's pretty much no drawbacks for this. Well, unless something notices you. After gaining this new ability, the collector sends us towards the Gale Cliffs. He suspects that one of the relics remains there. With this, we have now officially started the main quest. Get these relics back and get some cool abilities in return. Not a bad deal. After coming back to the Greater Marrow, the lighthouse keeper comes down, and it seems she recognizes the old sound of your engine being pumped with haste. Apparently, it sounded like a boat that an old friend used. It seems the collector and lighthouse keeper have more than what's being let on. That's about it for the Marrows in a night. Now come, we got some dredging to do. You approach a large cliff with multiple entryways. This place seems a lot more different than the Marrows. More rugged and disheveled. You can ask the mayor about the 4 areas in the game, however he doesn't say anything interesting about this place. Just a bit of lore that I'll get into in a bit. Anyway, on your right is a small town, Ingvel. Ingvel used to be known for its whaling industry. But as the years have gone on, what remains is a town buried beneath its former glory. Further ahead is what seems to be an abandoned town near the cliffs. Seemingly in a dangerous environment. It seems foolish to live here, and a fool does live here, the Hermit. The Hermit is the only resident of this abandoned part of the town, and is part of the main story quest. See that debris over there? It seems the relic is trapped on the other side. No way to get through it. These blockades will be around the map, usually blocking important items, fishes, or materials. The Hermit's quest does lead to a method of dealing with these, but currently, we have a more pressing matter on our hands. While there are new fishes that lurk around here, are we really gonna go all the way back to sell them? Plus, we have the additional problem of breaking our boat and having to sail all the way back, as it seems like these cliffs and geysers aren't gonna be friendly to us. Thankfully, no, because we have the best girl of this game. The Traveling Merchant. She takes fish, repairs your boat, sells research parts and important materials that allow you to upgrade your space, and allows you to store items as well. I said the fishmonger was a Chad, but she's the whole package. She also gives you a side quest that gives a lot of research parts as well. Plus, it's not that hard either, it's just getting a bunch of exotic fish and telling her about it. It's purely just a way to get more research parts, or fill out the fish catalog. Anyway, best girl, and a reassuring face to see around the map. That's all we really got around here other than, well, the inside of the cliffs. It's extremely narrow and needs to be carefully navigated through. However, it seems we're not welcomed here. This is the Serpent. The Serpent is a huge eel-like monster with a large red eye. It also might be why that part of town became abandoned as well. It travels around burrowing through the bottom layers of the cliffs, and once it spots something that doesn't belong here, it won't be afraid to give chase. It's not all bad news, as it's not as fast if you upgrade your boat. You've upgraded it, right? The only tricky part is that you have to deal with this thing while navigating through the cliffs, and you're probably gonna be screaming as well. Listen, I'm obviously going to tell you to keep calm, but are you actually going to keep calm? That's all for the cliffs, to be honest. It's a cool area with a cool sea monster and a cool story as well. Oh, another bottle.
He still refuses to take me aboard when he is working. He is convinced that I'll find it dull, or that the crew will be crass or otherwise intolerable. Perhaps I am being overly needy. I know he needs time alone, but I'm so desperately bored at home when he is away. He recently installed some salvaging equipment onto the boat. I think the idea of pulling up treasure is terribly exciting. I must convince him to let me have a go.
It seems the husband is a bit paranoid. Speaking of stories, we start the main one here by talking to the whaler in Ingvel. The whaler is depressed because he can't kill whales anymore, even though I've seen like 20 of them throughout this game. Dude's just sad, but he has something that is extremely vital for us. And we learn this from the hermit, as they are brothers. Brothers who had a falling out, and in the midst of that, the hermit took their father's crest and lost it in the sea. It's now residing within the middle of the cliffs, but the hermit does mention that his brother needs to make explosives. These explosives were used to blow up stuck up whale carcasses, and now I see why this place is in a rough spot. Listen, I wouldn't want to clean whale guts off my roof every now and then, just saying. After retrieving the crest and bringing the hermit back to Ingvel for the brothers to reunite and make up, the whaler decides to do you a favor and make some explosives for you. That you have to buy, by the way. Listen, I understand that you guys need money, but I am literally the reason why you have your brother back. By the way, you can buy these explosives from the merchant as well, just in less quantity. So you don't need to go all the way back to the Gale Cliffs for them, but you do get less from her. After clearing the way to the abandoned town, it seems that there's some dredge that emits the same light as the key you found before. Dredging it up, you pick up a music box. A music box with a keyhole. Well. Let's go back then, shall we? There really is nothing left to do here, and... It appears to be an altar for a species of fish. Crabs are pretty much fish with legs, right? These altars are essentially puzzles. Puzzles that require you to use 120% of your brain to match the shape of the box with sea creatures. There's one at each area, and sometimes you'll need one species, or others require multiple. What you get in return are these weird ass fishing tools. Fishing items that help you get more aberrants. So if you're trying to go for the all aberrants achievement, then I highly recommend you to get these. Other than that, that's pretty much all there is to this place. After making it back to the collector, he seems to be more joyful that you've returned, unsure on if you are committed to be on this adventure. After, he rewards you again by whispering the text of the Crimson and Silver Book. Suddenly your stomach drops, almost as if a wave threw you around. The ability you've been granted this time is Manifest. Manifest is amazing. Find yourself in the middle of nowhere? Holding down your ability will allow you to teleport to the Blackstone Isle. Of course, no human would be able to handle this mentally, so your panic does increase whenever you use it. It does, however, have a long cooldown, well, unless you sleep right after using it. Manifest essentially just speeds up the game massively, as if you don't have near max upgrade engines already, you slowpoke, then traveling around can be very boring. Unless you're one of those so-called no fast travel enjoyers, which I refuse to believe anyone is like that, by the way. You're faking it, I know it. Manifest is just a nice way to get some upgrades or sell some fish quickly. As the merchant, while being in all 4 areas, only stays in one place. So if you're nowhere near her, you can just manifest and go back to the OGs in the Greater Marrow. After gaining this ability, the collector ushers you to keep on collecting more relics, guiding you towards the Stellar Basin, wherever it's called.
Basin.
Yes!
You can ask the collector on why he wants these relics. He states that he's just collecting. What a little bullshit. If you ask him on why he himself doesn't go on these journeys, then he gives a rather interesting answer. The ocean no longer wishes to cooperate, as the waves are unsafe for me. You will be my surrogate. Surrogate meaning substitute, or arrangement for birth, but let's just go with the previous definition. The Stellar Basin, as described by the mayor, is a popular tourist area due to the resort built upon coral reef. So, by the description, this sounds a lot more relaxing than the prior location. But as you go towards the basin, it seems things around here are not as relaxing as we thought. Welcome to the Stellar Basin, a complete ghost town compared to what it was described to be. And I suspect the culprit is lurking beneath. At the arrival point, if you go this way, there appears to be a bottle here.
I have not ridden in a few days. I have been afflicted with some strange chill which conspires to fog my brain. I cannot seem to keep warm no matter what I do. While most of what they hauled up was junk, they eventually came up with a large wooden casket. A hush came over the crew at such a tantalizing discovery. I remember the next moments with excruciating clarity. He pried it open easily. The buckling boards cracked and groaned with relief as they splintered apart. The crimson cloth spilled out onto the deck. The crashing waves rose to fill my ears. I hear them still. He stared down into the open casket, then turned to me. In his eyes, I saw the void.
That's ominous, considering that it takes place a couple days after the one we found before. Anyway, the Stellar Basin is one of the most beautiful and unnerving areas in the game. At first it seems odd. While it's the most vibrant area by far, and even more so at night, the mood itself is rather empty. Well, empty is the wrong word to describe this, as there is definitely something large that resides here. The resort that is supposedly a popular resort place turns out to be a lot more lifeless. No living thing lives here anymore other than the fish, at least from this angle. There is also an abandoned research outpost here as well, with a large generator. And I think the culprit is this thing. This thing is what others call the Kraken, but I think our answer is given by someone else. The Kraken, which is what I'll be calling it as the other name is not as cool, is the resident monster of this place. And it seems to be why this place has been deserted. If you go near the middle, which also happens to be the area where the relic is, a large tentacle will strike your boat. Basically, the middle area is off limits, for now at least. While searching around the area, you see a large outpost, almost a castle with a mounted turret. Well shit, this place looks secured. There's also another note here.
We are engaged to be married. He sailed us out on the very center to the stellar basin to see the lights. We talked for hours, something we haven't done in such a long time, waiting and hoping. Sometime past midnight, as we were growing delirious and hysterical from the lack of sleep, the aurora shimmered into the skies above. When I turned to see his reaction, he was already down on one knee. I cannot even remember what he said or what I said, but I know that I said yes. The ring is beautiful, with a span of jewels going right the way around. I cannot take my eyes off of it. P.S. I'm not sure whether to write this under yesterday's date or today's, given that it had occurred at the conjunction of days, but I feel that the news is significant enough to warrant spanning multiple entries.
Ah, that's sweet. Much better than the last one. In the large outpost, you meet the only human that stays here, the researcher. The researcher is a young lady who was originally at the abandoned outpost we saw before. However, it was attacked by the Kraken and forced her to leave, forcing her to leave all of her equipment behind. Now, her research has been halted, and she requests that you help collect the samples for it. And being a gentleman, or forced to do so due to the fact that the relic is literally in the middle of that hellhole, and who knows, maybe this will lead you to a way to deal with that large creature. Those turrets do look pretty helpful, just saying. You can ask her about herself, and she'll say that she struggled at the college she studied at. There were no other females in that department, so she often felt like an outsider. After graduating, she got a research job and chose to be here, though despite thinking that the peace and quiet would be nice, it actually ended up making her miss the company she had before. Out here, it's nothing but machines. And fish, of course. But you can't really talk to them, can you? I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to her as I have. We have our moments where we think being alone is the best for us, but in reality, we crave company. Humans are social creatures after all. It's nice to chat with people, and even if you prefer to be alone, it's nice every now and then to talk to people. You might find the wrong people at first, but it doesn't hurt to break away from that, and remember, there will always be a group of people out there that would love to chat with you. It's just up to you to go find them, or make them find you. Anyway, enough of that sob shit, let's go and find out what the Kraken is. Asking the researcher on the creature that attacked her, and probably you, and she suggests that it may be a squid, or a anemone. Yeah, we got it, anemone. I think it's more of an anemone due to its arms seeming to be like that species, than a squid. You can also ask her about strange things that are happening around sea. She'll bring up an interesting point. Apparently, she found letters around here from her sister before she passed away, is what I'm assuming from the silence right after. She'll talk about how she received messages when she was studying abroad. However, she goes on to say that these letters appeared in her collection nets. And the strangest part about this whole thing, the letters were talking about things that happened after she died. Perhaps this woman is actually the sister of the lady in these bottled messages. If that's the case, then I suspect that ominous message has a terrible ending that we'll be reading soon. After collecting the samples, she'll send you back to the old research outpost to collect the prototype parts in the lab. Once you come back, she'll give you a hook with those parts that allows you to fish at further depths, the abyssal and hadal zones. Afterwards, she'll give you a large device, a repulsion machine that deters any large creature hearing it or enrage it. Hopefully not the latter. After giving us the item, she'll ask for more samples, specifically deeper depth fish. Activating the machine creates this large ringing noise and stuns the creature for a bit, a lot longer than you would think, allowing you to fish the samples and dredge the relic all within the same time span. And hey, one of the rare fishes that the merchant wanted is here as well. The relic that is collected from here this time is a ring.
The ring is beautiful, with a span of jewels going right the way around. I cannot take my eyes off of it.
After collecting the samples and heading back to the researcher, she conducts some scans. She has good news and bad news. The bad news is that the creatures here have high amounts of cellular mutation. And the good news is that she found out why this phenomenon happened. The kraken in the middle is essentially harmful to all forms of life at a cellular level, damaging everything around it.
Life is pain!
Maybe even the residents that were previously here. And perhaps is the reason why the creatures are becoming more odd as you fish. For your helpful support, she gives you a book that gives you 15% chance not to reduce fish stocks when fishing. Anyways, we're pretty much done with this area. As I said before, the main quests are pretty short. In fact, if you wanted, you could just activate the machine, get the ring, and then dip right after. The researcher forever wondering where you went. So that'll be all, right? Nope! We got a crucial side quest. This is probably one of the most important side quests in the game. It's so important that I'm talking about it. And you wanna know what it is? There's a dog in the abandoned resort. You can feed it, pet it, and take it with you on your boat. Yeah, that's about it. You can take the dog to the researcher and fix her company issue, and she'll be ecstatic about it. Or you can take the dog for yourself and haste away, forever leaving her alone. Your reward for giving the dog to the researcher is a vomit-covered ring. Now whenever you come back to her, you can see the dog in the background. Okay, this time we're actually done with this place. After coming back to the collector, probably by manifesting, his eyes widen. An item like this would probably be sold at a high price at an auction, or $20 at the trader outpost. However, he retorts this by saying, for us, its value transcends material wealth. And so he gives us our reward, reading the book aloud but still not understandable. You hear a growling and crackling noise in your ear. Soon after, your vision flares up and your ears pop as he closes the book with Banish now being at your disposal. Banish is the closest thing you'll have to a weapon. At the price of extreme panic, it will basically scare away any hostile creature that approaches. The night angler, phantom sharks, sea serpent, and any more creatures you'll encounter in the future. Except this guy. It's incredibly useful and definitely makes you feel more safe. Cooldown is massive, however, so don't get comfortable using it. The collector, after blessing you, will tell you to go towards the Twisted Strand, as there has to be something among that detritus? Detritus?
Detritus.
That just doesn't sound right, but it is easier to say, and honestly, I'll probably never say this word ever again. You already know where we're going. Let's head off now. As you approach the swamp, the fog thickens up immensely. As the mayor described, the Twisted Strand is mostly just a tangled mess of trees. But something strange is probably happening like the other areas. Much like the Gale Cliffs, the Twisted Strand is extremely narrow at some parts. And because of the water being so muddy, it requires you to use a different rod. Specifically one that specializes in mangrove areas like this one. The merchant will also be at the entrance of the swamp, and she'll tell you something peculiar. Apparently, the feeling that she got while being in there was off. Almost as if the trees were moving. And I think she's onto something with that. The Strand seems to tangle anything that comes by, with crashed planes everywhere around the place, and abandoned campsites as well. Dog tags littered throughout the mangrove, for you to pick up and give to the trader. I bet he'd give you like $5 for 2 of them. Throughout the wreckage, you manage to find arrow signs, and curiosity grabs you a hold and you follow them, leading you to a crashed plane and a campsite. Sitting around is the airman, an absolute badass, and a Giga Chad for sure. literally sharpening a stick by wedging it in between his arm that has been cut off. This guy's definitely seen some stuff, and probably has knowledge on the moving trees too. Talking to him, he says that by the look on our face, we've encountered the wretches. He apparently has been trying to get rid of them ever since he crashed here. He says that the boys called them the mind suckers, due to them messing with your mind and in a way control you. He wants to leave, but not before avenging his squad. What a Chad. Ask him what happened to them and he answers that the fog screwed them over, making them crash into the place. Anyone who survived the fall rallied underneath the giant tree you're currently under. However, they were soon picked off one by the wretches of the forest. He's met a few fishermen like us, but none would join him on his fight. But would you? Of course you would, right? Right? After forcing you, volunteering to help the old man, he makes up a plan to find the lost pieces of a mortar. This will be used to bomb those things. So he marks your map on where they are and you go on your way. He'll also ask you to give any dog tags you find, and in return, he'll give you research parts. Which is way better than whatever the trader would give you. Alright, so, mind suckers, am I right? What are they? I honestly have no clue, is what I would say, but I'm gonna save that for the end because I don't want to talk about it here because it's already too late. It's by these stone obelisks that... I'll explain it later, you gotta make it to the end. Just think of them as tree monsters. Mind suckers will occasionally rise up from the water and scan around any moving targets in its area. If you move around in its area, then it will do this. If you move around in its area, then it'll do this psychic attack on you that makes your panic meter increase. Which doesn't seem too bad. I don't know how a phantom shark could reach you in there. But these weird tree tentacles will sprout up from the water and start attacking you. What I think is happening is that you probably just gone insane and you're just bumping into a bunch of tree roots. However, your mind is completely thinking of something else, of course. Now, I got a great solution for this. Just don't move. Whenever they pop up, they'll look around for any moving targets. And if you stay still, then you'll be all good. You could also banish them if you do get spotted, by the way. Honestly, I never really had a problem with them, as even if you do get spotted, banishing will usually last until you're out of the area, or at a dock. And enemies can't attack you at a dock. So yeah, they're just meh. Honestly, probably one of the weakest parts of the game. Even more so later on, but we'll get to that later. Now then, I'm assuming you have those mortar parts. You don't? Well, get them then! Go! After getting the mortar parts and returning back to the airman, he requests some fish for some bait, as he has set up traps and plans to use the bait to trap the mind suckers. Afterwards, absolute annihilation. You can also ask him if it's safe, and he'll give you a funny answer. Next, you fish, get fish, turn fish into bait, and then proceed to the final step of the plan. You know what time it is. Maneuvering your way to one of the traps, you set the bait and watch. Now that's satisfying. Going up to the carcass, and you can extract whatever's left of it. Right! You gotta do this 2 more times.
Crush! Destroy!
Wait. Looks like you found our message.
It feels like years since I have been warm. I do not expect him to write. I just need to know that he thinks of me from time to time. He must return. I have written him another letter. This will be the last one.
What is this? With the plan complete, you go back to the airman where you show the corpses of the mind suckers to him. Finally, after a long time of waiting, he's avenged his comrades. Within the third corpse, however, appears to be some sort of metal. Upon the airman pulling it out, it appears to be a necklace, emitting the strange light as you saw with the others. Looks like you found the relic. The airman gives it to you as a reward, and also begrudgingly stays here as well. Due to the time being here, it appears that this has become his home. And it's also where his comrades have fallen. Leaving them here would feel like a disgrace. He does offer to make you some more bait for fish whenever you come around though. Or you can just buy them from the merchant instead of heading into this place. Cause she also has them now having met the airman after your ordeal here. Well, other than collecting more dog tags, your task here is done. And now there's pretty much nothing hostile here anymore. Yeah, those mine suckers that were kinda dangerous, they're just dead. Nothing replaces it. Which really does take you out of the feeling of danger, no matter what you are. On one side, I'm happy to finally take matters into my own hands and kill one of the enemies of this game, but at the same time, there just isn't any risk coming here now. The Cliffs still has a serpent, which to be fair, you can easily outpace it late game, but you're still on the move constantly there. And the Basin does allow you to stun it, but there's still that lingering feeling of the generator going off at any moment and the Kraken being active again. And the Marrows of course has. Your only danger is crashing your boat, which at this point, I'm assuming you know how to navigate properly. So yeah, that was the Twisted Strand. Probably the least exciting area in the game, but still enjoyable in some parts. Mostly the airman being a badass. Delivering the necklace to the collector makes him recognize it almost immediately. He rewards you once again with the book's strange powers. You feel weak at first, but you're rooted. Your knees on the verge of collapsing. After the chanting is complete, blood suddenly rushes to your legs and power grows in your chest. The power of atrophy. Atrophy allows you to collect fish in a long range automatically. No minigame is required for this. However, fish can sometimes be infected whenever this ability is activated. It's less useful as a way to farm in my opinion, and more useful as a way to obtain any missing aberrants you need. Overall, it's alright. Compared to the other abilities, you'll probably use this one the least. The collector feels anxious as only one relic remains. However, the last relic resides in a place he loathes. The Devil's Spine. Before departing, you can ask a few questions, and one of them is chilling. You can ask him if he's really human. This gives me massive faith vibes, specifically from Gary's iconic "I am a normal human being, just like you." Whether you believe him is up to the player, but I think the answer is obvious to us. You can also ask him how he knows the location of these relics. He'll say that he really doesn't, but he'll read the seas and hear the waves whisper secrets to the witnesses. Ah yes, perfectly normal human behavior. I'm sure you guys do this all the time at the beach, right? I certainly do. Anyways, it's time we head off. We're so close, aren't we? You've arrived at last, and you can tell this is an endgame area. Going by the mayor's info, the Devil's Spine has an active volcano amongst a city of ancient ruins. Due to the hot temperatures, only certain rods will work here, just like the Twisted Strand. Unless you get the versatile rod, which you're basically covered for all 4 areas. I highly recommend this, by the way. The Devil's Spine has the most hostile atmosphere out of all the areas. The ambience just shouts that you're not welcome here. And I think the local fish would agree as well. These are the piranhas. Scary little fishes that are actually more terrifying in real life. Listen, those documentaries scarred me. Like, river monsters made me 10 times more scared of water in South America than I was before. The piranhas don't actually do anything. They just make noises under your ship and circle around it. Don't get comfortable though, as now you've become a target of the unseen mother. This big ass piranha happens to be blind, but luckily, or unluckily for you actually, the piranhas allow her to know your location and take a small little nibble out of your boat. Now while they seem threatening, I barely had a problem with them. Banish really does bully these little guys and allow you to do your own thing. However, unlike the mine suckers, they remain a problem whenever you visit this area, so at least they're still an active threat that needs to be looked out for. Now let's talk about environment. Aside from the ambience and atmosphere that I mentioned before, this place looks awesome. You can tell that this is probably the most lore-heavy area in the game. The ancient ruins, the tall buildings, the hooded figured statues that look eerily similar to the ones we saw before. Clearly, this was an ancient civilization that was around long ago. And for whatever reason, it went to ruin. Maybe the active volcano caused its destruction, or the water levels increased. Or maybe something unexplainable happened here. In the back area, there's a cave, and you can see that there are 2 different drawings on the wall. Well, you can't see it, but the game hints that there is in fact paintings on the walls. One shows a thriving city, and the other an apocalypse. Perhaps portraying life before and after the destruction of this place. Almost like an ancient version of the Marrows, as there is also a structure that looks very similar to the lighthouse back in the Marrows. You can walk up here and the doors seem to be locked and also need some sort of key to get in. There's probably going to be some sort of hint that allows us to get in here. While exploring this place, you find this large stone structure with pillars and statues of hooded figures standing around. When docking by this place,
oh my god, what is that?
A strange man hurries down to greet you. He seems ecstatic that a new disciple has been sent by the waves to help him. Obviously, you're oblivious as to what's going on and want no part of this, and after explaining that you're just passing by, he disagrees with what you just said. He remarks that your arrival is an answer from the deep, after multiple attempts of calling, that the rite of purification is almost at hand, and you are to be his replacement. And for some reason, you decide to listen. Look, I get how you're trying to figure out stuff around here, but I'm genuinely worried about your well-being. This is the fanatic. On the outside, he appears to be a crazed man who has lost his mind after being out at sea for too long. However, I suspect, and I'm guessing you do too, that this man holds some answers that we're looking for. Immediately, your trial is decided to begin now, and the fanatic asks you 3 questions. I went with the classic edgy answers as I thought it would fit his mood, and the mood of the whole world itself. I told him that our spirit seeks emptiness, that our flesh craves the chill of the water, and our world deserves nothing.
I'll take a potato chip and eat it.
He seems satisfied with these answers, telling us that the world does indeed deserve nothing, as it constantly takes away from us. And by the time it knows it's taking too much, it'll be too late. In a way, mirroring humans, as we often take and harvest a lot of the planet's resources. And maybe by the time we find out we've taken too much, it'll already be too late to fix it. With our first trial concluded, he spouts that you still have so much to learn. Now, our new role is to be the Herald of the Purge, a role that was given to the Fanatic and the Fanatic before him. I have no clue what's going on and what the Herald of the Purge is. Maybe the world's gonna be destroyed. I don't know. You're just helping him. He tells us that these statues around us desire fire, but remain cold. So now, your goal is to gather 3 flames to ignite the statues, marking the locations of the shrines where the flames are. I bet you're confused. And so am I, to be honest. But we can explore this place for a bit. By checking the stone columns, we can find carved pictures and texts on them. The first says the swarm of small creatures depict a swarm of fish under a boat. However, they are powerless underneath. Alone, they are nothing. But together, they summon her. Beneath are texts that say, "Do not let them grip you, burn them away." Obviously, these are the piranhas from earlier. The second just talks about the unseen mother and pretty much repeats what I said before. And the third shows a bubbling underwater vent with the words, "The breath of salvation. It burns those that mean harm. Only the pure remain."
I get it.
I don't get it.
Beneath, someone has added a note, "Protection. Follow the magma. Follow them." I'm gonna be honest. I have no clue what this means. It's probably a safe route to avoid the piranhas, considering the other stone columns talk about them. Walking back, you can ask the Fanatic if he's seen any relics around. He replies that he has one with him, an antique pocket watch that shines the same strange color as the others. He says that it will be yours if you complete the ritual. Okay, so why don't we just, Okay, I get it. No need to berate me. It was just a suggestion. We can also ask him about the scroll he's carrying. He recounts that he found it at the end of his other life. Listen, dude, are you sure you don't want to reconsider? After deciphering the runes, he says that it talks about an incomprehensible door. And the twisted fish, most likely the piranhas, are the closest thing to a key. It seems he might be talking about the lighthouse door that was locked up. The last option we can ask is if there are any others besides him. He snaps back that there are pretenders around, ones who made a mockery of the deep, and he attempted to correct. But as soon as he saw the path they were on, he left them to their ceaseless hunger. Much like some previous hungry folks, huh? It seems the hooded figures might have been the previous disciples of the Fanatic. having lost their way and now live a life of gluttony and waiting. However, that's just a theory. I'm not continuing that joke.
Don't you tell me how many calories I need, bitch!
Okay, after all that dialogue, let's just start the ritual, please. The fires can be found in these altars around the area. In order to unlock them, you'll need certain types of fish. It's pretty easy though, and shouldn't take you that long. You can also get the encrusted talisman, an insane upgrade that increases your fishing speed by 330%. It also increases the chances to get aberrants as well. This is a must-have item, and if we were doing a tier list on tools, would sit comfortably in S tier. After heading back and igniting the 3 statues, the fanatic will finally start the ritual. Following him up to the altar at the top, he pulls out the pocket watch from before, swaying it side to side in the breeze. His last words to you before commencing being that the watch is almost yours, and may it mark the start and end of your journey. After this, he pulls the scroll up and begins to chant. No matter what, you are rooted to your spot, as you witness the cold flames begin to spark at his feet. The flames start to climb up to his legs, but the fanatic doesn't waver. As the fire rises, he raises his arms and is immediately engulfed in the flames. By the time the flames are gone, it's already too late. Only a cold mist remains and is swept up into the seas. The only thing left of the fanatic is a pyre, cold and damp. Within the pyre is a pocket watch, which you, of course, grab. It's now freezing cold and vibrates in your hand, the hands of the clock spinning wildly as if they come to life. It is complete. You should probably head back. Right after some more exploring, aw yeah! Hey, another one.
Yesterday was the reading of his mother's will. Most of the remaining estate went directly to him, of course, but to my surprise, she bequeathed me her pocket watch. Curious, I'm not fond of the thing, but I know that taking it will mean a lot to him. I cannot help but feel it is some vile jab at me from beyond the grave. She was the type to do such a thing. Was I late on some occasion? I cannot recall.
It looks like you found the origin of the pocket watch. Wait, the pocket watch was hers, right? And the collector's trying to collect them. Something isn't right. Underneath the water, you can find these stone tablets, and taking them back to the trader allows us to get a hint of their purpose. He confirms that this does belong to a larger piece, and also tells us that he actually found another piece a while ago. He suspects that there are probably more out there in the Devil's Spine, and so you go and collect 2 more tablets from the volcanic water. Coming back to the trader will trigger him to arrange them into a square, the tablet now beginning to create new glyphs that emit a strange light. He then begins to transcribe the glyphs onto a scrap of parchment, each stroke demanding extreme concentration. After finishing, he'll chant,
"When the sky mistakes the stars, and the air grows thick with night, the deep will open its skies. Protect us, O guiding light."
There's only one guiding light that he knows, but it seems that this is a different lighthouse. Anyways, the tablets begin to fuse together and are now whole. The trader tells us that the Devil's Spine probably has some door that uses it to unlock it, and it's a good thing we already know the answer. Inserting the tablet into the key slot opens the door up. Within are some valuables and the flame of the sky. This is the brightest light in the game, able to shine at 3,500 lumens and has a range of 25 meters. While it doesn't have the biggest range, it's small and can fit other smaller lights that extend the range more than the incandescent ray, which has a range of 40 meters and is a lot larger, which isn't good in this case, by the way. The flame of the sky is also a must-have and can also easily be obtained early game. This isn't a pyrocynical video, we're not ranking tools though, so it's S tier, but I'm not going to rank the others. Anyways, it's time you head back. Another one.
My darling, I have found you at last. When you left, I was scattered to the winds. But now, I feel almost whole again. There's just one thing left to do. Throw me back.
Coming back to the collector, you pause before knocking. The collector is more than happy to see us as you pull out the pocket watch. The clock hand's now twitching in a struggle, trying to move forward, but won't budge. You place the watch in front of the collector. He reminisces on the watch. It's been decades since he's seen it. With that, the collection is complete. The collector being surprised the whole time, not thinking you had the determination to complete it. Despite all this, there's a part of you that doesn't feel complete. Before you can ponder about it more, the collector utters that with the collection complete, only one thing remains, and he suspects that you know by now. I know. But do you? The collector says that we must make one final voyage, and this time, he'll be with you. But something doesn't feel right. You don't feel right. You need to keep exploring. Find it. Once you do, it will all be over. Before entering the Devil's Spine, you can spawn an island with ruins similar to the ones in that area. It even seems like you can dock here as well, for whatever reason. There also seems to be an active campfire. Someone is here, muttering to himself. And holy shit! It's the old mayor. His first words after seeing you, asking if you threw it back into the ocean. Okay, oh my god. Asking what he means, and he'll reply with the book. Replying that you don't understand, and he'll begin to question himself, saying over and over that it's you, right? Asking who he thinks you are, and he'll glance towards the fire. After a bit, he'll begin to speak. He explains that it was him and his damned wife. They dredged up the old book, but something cloaked in fog followed it out. Loudly, he then exclaims that the boat was then destroyed, and afterwards, it spoke, and it said it was coming for their breaths, that they wouldn't be needing it soon. Soon after, darkness crashed down. A little while later, they washed up on shore, and that he, despite all of that chaos, he was still clutching that book. Any survivors who washed up with them were screaming for him to throw it back, thinking that surely it can be undone, right? Asking him what book, barks back a response. Silver and crimson, covered in her blood, saying that it needs to be thrown back. And also that she was there as well, the lighthouse keeper. She has the answers and knows where the book needs to go. You can ask him more questions, but it seems like his insanity gets the better of him. The old mayor actually has 3 locations he can go to. The other locations are supposedly in the Stellar Basin and Twisted Strand. There was an abandoned dock in the Twisted Strand, so I'm guessing that's where he was supposed to be. Silver and crimson. Silver and crimson. After all this information, you have your thoughts gathered. Your answer. You do, right? I mean, it's kind of obvious. The collector! It has to be the collector. The one with the silver and crimson book. The one with the power of the deep. Literally giving us these mystical powers. Those bottled messages were from his wife, and that's why he's been collecting all those relics. Mementos of his past, his former glory. Finally, the answer you've been looking for, and to confirm it, you head to the lighthouse keeper. When you mention the book, it makes her shudder. But her reaction is a lot more different than what you expect it to be. She's bewildered, confused. She says that you know it must be returned. To move on, for her sake and yours. Now you don't know the right answer, or you do because you're a smart cookie. And so you decide to confront the man himself. You can ask him a bunch of questions about the book, but it'll prompt him to act dumb, grabbing another book in the back and grinning while doing so. Telling him to stop this stupid charade, and it'll trigger him to snap back. That your hypocrisy is showing, and that he has to go through this all over again. The Book of the Deep is in his hands as he says this. Interestingly, he says, "Go ahead, ask us," as if he isn't a single entity. Asking him where he got it from will give a response that you were there, and so was she. Asking who, and he'll reply that you wanted to forget. Begged him. Tired of not getting the answers you want, you demand to be given the book. He of course refuses, so you step closer, and the collector surprisingly does as well. He tries to talk down at you, but you respond by striking the collector and taking the book. You are the collector. I know you have a lot of questions, or you've come up with some answers, but I think we should go over a couple of things. Those bottled messages that have been floating around, there are approximately 3 others that I left out. Their importance is vague, but serve to act as hints as to who you are. Near this small island near the Marrows, wait, does this even count as an island? There is some wreckage on the side. Searching through and you'll find a note. Deep, sky, deep, sky, deep, forever. Now you expect me to know what this is, right? No, I don't know what this means. I have some theories, but it's not really anything I could back up with. Deep is obviously referring to the book, and sky is obviously the opposite of it. Remember the flame of the sky? Well, it's obvious that the sky is meant to counter the deep. While the deep is evil, the sky is good. Which makes sense if we correspond it to, the lighthouses. The lighthouses are in the air and bright as hell, which is pretty much the opposite of the deep, under the ocean where it's really, really dark. But I have no idea where this leads to, so I'll just leave it like this, and maybe you can come up with something. In the Gale Cliffs, at the entrance, there will be a floating bottle. It's literally at the entrance, you can't miss it. Inside is a manifest note that talks about a music box being bought from Little Marrow. It tells us that the music box has the letter J carved into it. It also reads about a wooden mask that is supposed to bring good luck. And the most important thing about this note, the owner of these 2 items being Michael Schultz. If you can't tell, this is the name of the protagonist. The final message left can be found in the Twisted Marrow. The message this time being about a silver necklace with emeralds, which is one of the relics, by the way. And more importantly, for Jay, my shining star. The pieces are all here, and the only thing left to do is to put it all together. You play as Michael Schultz and have a lover whose name is unknown, but her first initial being J. During the 6th and 7th of March in 1972, and 1972 is where all this takes place, by the way, Michael decides to propose to his wife at the stellar Basin, a popular tourist destination. She accepts the ring with glee and joy, and now the 2 are on the path to being married. During the 1st of June, after Michael's mother passes away, he reads her will. She gives a pocket watch to his wife as a parting gift, and her reaction seems a bit miffed, but for his sake, she accepts it. On the 20th of August and on the 2nd day of their honeymoon, they sail around the inlets of Greater Marrow. She seems to be having a great time, observing the waters and rocks. Last night, Michael renamed the boat Julie, as a memento to his wife. It's unknown if the name is her actual name or nickname. Though since she doesn't comment on it, it seems to be the latter. To make sure that the ceremony doesn't go poorly, Michael throws away any old remains of the boat, not knowing that the wife secretly kept a keychain of the old name. And the day after? Well, something goes wrong. The boat had an accident and crashed into a rock that seemingly appeared out of nowhere. Paranoid, he checks the notes on what went wrong with the ceremony, his wife observing him as he does. It looks like the mask he bought wasn't good enough. Next month, on the 9th of September, Michael had to tell his wife that she couldn't come aboard, worried that she'll find it dull and boring. Though it seems she's determined to go after he installed a dredging device onto his boat. And it seems like Michael isn't good under pressure. And finally, the 14th of September, the day of tragedy. With his wife on board, after hours of convincing, they go on to dredge up a large wooden casket. They pry it open to reveal a book, emitting a strange light. Though as soon as he grabs it, a beast suddenly comes and crashes through the ship. The last sight of his wife, her body, falling towards the ocean. Afterwards, Michael washes up on shore with a couple of survivors. The silver book now emboldened with red. It whispers to him. The ones that survived begged him to throw it back into the sea. But he refuses. What a lore-heavy dump. Oh my god. That's right, you are the collector. And the whole time, you had the book with you. At least that's what I think. First, let's get the facts out of the way. You and the collector are the same person. A split personality in a way. The woman in the bottled messages are from your wife. The old mayor and the lighthouse keeper have confirmed that it's the same you that was on that day. and they are the only survivors. I personally believe that the collector is you, but isn't at the same time. When talking to the mayor, he says that the Blackstone Isle was sold to a private owner 20 years ago, though he thinks that the island has become inhabited, which makes sense as you left the island at some point. However, as the collector said, the waters are hostile to him, so in order for him to initiate his plan, he decides to wipe out any memory he had of the book and the sea, thus forgetting the powers of the book and allowing you to sail the waters safely. The reason the collector had to do this was because of the Leviathan. The Leviathan is like the protector of the seas. Whenever you have high panic by using your abilities too much, the Leviathan will devour your boat. It also doesn't allow you to leave whenever you go out of bounds, since it can't afford the book to be spreading out into the world. And before all of this, it was the one who attacked the boat. Yeah, that thing that the old mayor mentioned, the Leviathan was the one that crashed through the boat, seeing that the book was dredged up and thus killing your wife and setting this whole thing into motion. After wiping your memories, however, the Leviathan can't immediately devour your boat without knowing your true purpose. Now who's the collector then? I think it's actually a split personality created from the book, not being able to manifest in a physical form. So instead, it disguises itself in a mirror. As whenever you see the collector, he's in a reflection. I can't say that the split personality is the book itself, as the collector does at times seem genuine about the importance of these relics. I think it's just a projection of Michael, with one having the memories, being the collector, and one without them, the fisherman that you play as. You can also chalk it up to the fisherman being insane, but it just doesn't make any sense with the collector's character. Especially during this sequence, where I think the mask behind the collector is falling, referring to himself as us. Us most likely being the book, and in my opinion, he's working with the book. The reason I believe the book was with us the entire time will be talked about later. Now, how does the collector give us powers then? Well, considering that you had the book with you the entire time, I believe the collector was just using it as a way to unlock your memories on how to use those powers. As once again, the collector doesn't actually have a physical body, and we'll also see that he's able to communicate with us as well, even in this broken state, calling us pathetic and trying to convince us that they can bring her back. This also reinforces the idea that the collector is a mixture of the books and Michael's personality, as from this point on, they refer to themselves as us. There's also another conclusion in that the book is just a hive mind, and that's why they refer to themselves as us. So Michael's personality isn't actually in there, it's just fully on the book trying to convince you, which I can totally accept, but I like this idea better, since I always like the whole battling your inner demon type situations, and this is totally one of them. So you can go with either of them. I just accept this conclusion, but you can totally go with the other one. With the answer finally at your hands, and being one step away from completing your goal, you decide to commit, the day you and her were robbed of their lives, cursing each other, till the end of time. It isn't fair that the two of you were condemned to this fate. You return to the Shattered Collector, and get ready. To start this ending off, you must come back to the Collector, who is now broken and shattered into pieces, now looking like a monster instead of a human. By the way, at this point your game will not be saved, meaning that you'll return to your previous save before this. So no, you will not lose your whole game, but you will lose whatever you do after this. After confirming that this is the path you'll take, the Collector says that we should wait until the fog thickens. Maybe the seas will be oblivious to your true intentions, and then time skips forward until midnight. Afterwards, you are to set sail to the west side of Greater Marrow, the spot where that day happened. You cannot afford to make a mistake here, so hurry. The Collector's appearance then disappears, and a chill enters your body. The Collector is now with you. Making your way, you see a large purple light. That strange light you've been seeing throughout the game. Arriving at the area allows you to start the ritual, with the Collector's final monologue.
This is the place. This is where she was taken from us, and where we can at last bring her back. Only here, and only because of what we've achieved.
You open the book. The page is covered in an icy chill. Finally, you begin to chant. To release a lost one, frozen in time, you throw the pocket watch overboard. And tethered by the chains of the deep, you throw the necklace overboard. bind them to this world once more. You throw the ring overboard. Open the door to the starry heavens. You slot the key into the music box and lay the weary world to rest. At last, you throw the music box overboard, the key left unturned. Congrats! On behalf of the entire world being screwed over, you finally reunite with her. The giant eldritch being in the back released into the world to plunge it into chaos. It's assumed to be some sort of old god, perhaps even Cthulhu himself. I'm more inclined to an old god that's been slumbering beneath the seas. In the book, as some sort of key created by a follower of the old god. As if we're going by the collector being a mix of the book and Michael, then it's safe to say that the book has its own motives and personality. This ending is jaw-dropping, and literally gave me chills the first time I saw it. The way the old god slowly emerges, with your wife witnessing the horror you've just unleashed into the world, and the music box being the only thing you hear while all this happens. It's amazing, and immediately became one of my favorite endings I've ever seen, in gaming, just history. But you got what you wished for, didn't you? Even your wife wanted this, going by the messages she left behind. Which I still haven't explained yet. What do these mean? And how are they even here in the first place? Well, stay seated, cause there is still a lot more to dredge up. I really said that, didn't I? Now of course there's an alternate ending, one that allows the world to not be condemned towards destruction. As throughout the game, you've been given hints of your past and regrets, constantly reminded that this is the wrong path to take. And with a fresh mind to influence, thanks to the collector, you begin to change. You're no longer influenced by the book. Instead, you're in control now. The messages trying to remind you of your times with your wife are there to sway you towards the deep. But you're also reminded that she's gone, and you have to move on. With even your wife telling you this. As I believe these messages with no date are actually the spirit of your wife, trapped within the seas by the book, not being able to move on. The message during the 14th of September recounting the story but through a dead person's memories. During this note, she's angry that you haven't come to rescue her. But in this one, she accepts her fate. When you left signifies you wiping your memory. Scattered to the winds refers to the relics being around the map. The relics being significant pieces of both of your lives. And her feeling whole again are the pieces being brought back by your journey. But there is one thing left to do. Throw her back. At first it seems like it's her convincing you to proceed with the ritual. But coming back to where the old mayor was, and he's gone. Having left, or maybe even something else happened to him. A note left behind at the campsite. One that confirms that your wife has indeed moved on.
Close now. Nobody knows. Does he know? Desecrated temple. Forgive me. The only way he might understand. Must help him. Must stop him.
You're close now. Nobody knows the chaos you'll bring, and you might not even know. As if you didn't find the old mayor, then no matter what, you'll always be locked into the bad ending. You won't have any knowledge of the collector actually being you, and you can't confirm that the book was with you the entire time. You're blind to all of this in the default ending. And by the time you figure it out, just like what the fanatic said about the world, it's far too late to turn back. Speaking of the fanatic, I think she killed him. as the note talks about a desecrated temple much like the one you were at before, in the Devil's Spine. She even says forgive me, as she might have taken a life, and that it might be the only way he would understand. Personally, I would forgive her. That guy was annoying, and yes, you should have knocked him out. Lastly, the note says to help him by not making him go down the path of evil, and to stop him from, well... I do think the researcher is the sister of the wife, but that's about it. That's all I can really connect, as there really isn't much to connect it, other than the messages showing up for her. And to those saying why didn't the researcher recognize Michael, it's been 20 years since the fisherman or his old persona, the collector, has been seen. While the old mayor and lighthouse keeper have aged, the fisherman hasn't. It's easy to assume that she forgot his face. Anyhow, instead of falling into the deep, you instead fight back, smash the mirror of the collector, and leave the Blackstone Isle, never to return again, listening to your wife's last call to save yourself from the book. So you head to the only person who's around that knows about that day, the lighthouse keeper. Making your way back to where the game started, you show her that you have the book, which she remarks that you've had the book the entire time. If you need more evidence that you had the book the entire time, then this is the most I've got. But how else are you using these powers? I feel like in order to manifest or banish, you would need to chant some spells on the book. It just wouldn't make any other sense otherwise. Instead of magically using your brain for these abilities, you're instead subconsciously using the book as the memory of it was unlocked by the collector. Getting back to the story, the lighthouse keeper remarks that you should make the most out of this window. You're finally in control. Now is the time to act before you're swayed again. And so you act, the keeper asking you if you remembered where it all happened, and that you'll point the way. Once again, you must wait until midnight, where the fog is the thickest. She points the light towards the spot where you previously summoned the old god. Lastly, the keeper will tell you to do what's right for her, and to throw it back into the sea. You make your way over to the spot, and reminisce. This is the place. You attempt to throw the book overboard. The book pathetically struggles, somehow shifting its weight from side to side. You hold it above your head high, and the book groans, almost begging you to stop. And finally, you throw it into the sea. It's a bittersweet ending. At the cost of your life, the world is saved, as it was too late for you. You are far too gone into the deep. Tainted by the book, the Leviathan devours you whole. The Leviathan, as I said before, is the protector of the seas. And if you wanted more evidence that the Leviathan is the protector of the seas, here you go. Yeah, it sucks, but at long last, Michael and his wife can finally rest. Decades of torment under the book finally gone. And together, in a kind of twisted way now I think about it. The fog has finally cleared up, and you can see the aurora that they both witnessed on the day of the proposal. That's it though. There isn't a new game plus, and there really aren't any more upgrades. There is some stuff, such as the stone obelisks. The obelisks are just lore dumps that can only be read if you have high panic. One of them reveals how the mind suckers were created. Apparently, they're actually parasites that have burrowed into a large snake-like carcass. And even the Kraken has an origin story. But honestly, I just want to wrap this up. If you're curious, I'll leave a link to the wiki that provides all obelisk descriptions. So to wrap things up, I'm gonna give a brief description on each aberrant in the game. Also, make a fish tier list, cause fuck it. I've gone off the deep end already. There will be fish body horror, by the way, so if you're not into that, then subscribe! The grotesque mackerel, corrupted scales and bulbous eyes. Like nothing you've ever seen before. Pretty basic, just a scary fish. D tier. The lumpy mackerel, a writhing mass of lumps. How long has it lived like this? Disgusting. C tier. The many-eyed mackerel, scanning frantically, all eyes seeing right through you. Also basic. D tier. The all-seeing cod, always staring and unblinking. My very first aberrant, and therefore holds a special place in my heart. B tier. The fanged cod, deviantly sharp teeth with a hunger in its eyes. Again, just another scary fish. D tier. The three-headed cod. They writhe and struggle in unison, a fate bound to many. Very unique and oddly realistic. A tier. The brood squid. Tentacles sprout from a core in a gelatinous sac. Kinda looks like it swallowed a rubber ball. C tier. The snag squid, with tongues that writhe wildly and molars that are flattened like teeth. Very unsettling and the concept terrifying. B tier. The barbed eel. The spine broken and a row of teeth bent on revenge. Pretty boring design. F tier. The host eel. A glowing shape flickers in its ribcage. The rest is withered and drained. Cool and creepy design. A tier. The cyclopean flounder. A jellied mass with a single eye. However, what looks to be a pupil is actually an egg. A classic one-eyed fish with a twist. B tier. The riddled flounder. A singular shapeless mass with countless cavities. This is just basic and ugly. F tier. The tusked grouper. With pig-like tusks and no eyes, it attacks with no knowledge. Pig fish. C tier. The voltaic grouper. An unknown green energy arcs and crackles over its scales. An extremely cool and ghost-like fish. More cool than creepy, but still. S tier. The shard ray. A rocky stingray molded around a black crystal. Cool concept, but basic design. D tier. The sallow sailfish. A sickly pallid color coats the scales of the normally sleek fish. Pretty disturbing, while also similar to the original design. B tier. The hooked sailfish, with bones protruding from its odd muscles, and a hook to lure something greater. Probably the strangest looking fish so far. A tier. The blood-skinned shark and the cleft-mouthed shark. Similar designs of torn skin and sharp jaws. I'll give the blood-skinned shark C tier for the basic but cool design, and the cleft-mouthed shark B tier for the grin. Truly, the Jeff the Killer of sharks. The cerebral crab and malignant crab. Both with massive tumors swelling from the inside of their shells. Probably the most alien-like so far. B tier. The gnashing perch. Eyeless and mindless, it only desires to consume. Kinda looks like the pear with teeth meme.
A tier.
The flayed mackerel. With rendered flesh and muscle, it can't have lived long like this. A vile and rotten looking fish. C tier. The bearded mackerel. With wispy tendrils around the fish, they continue to move even after death. Kinda boring. D tier. Scouring bass. Has massive bulging eyes and accommodate for the depths. Unsettling, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was real. C tier. The gelatinous bass. It struggles to maintain its form. Barely a difference from the original fish. F tier. The enthralled stonefish. A hollowed husk hosting a dweller inside. It searches for a new one. The first aberrant to make me laugh when I caught it. A tier. Decaying blackmouth. A decaying fish that still swims on. F tier. Look at it. The sprouting eel. With crystals erupting from its body, they clatter as it moves. Probably one of the coolest designs in the game. S tier. The withered ray. Its wings are rotting and snaps as it swims. For some reason reminds me of the dried squid in those Asian stores. C tier. The translucent sturgeon. I don't even know what this description is talking about. It's pretty boring. F tier. The shattered wreckfish. The scales cracking and sliding on top of its body. I don't know why, but I like this design. Probably because of the colors, but still. B tier. Bony wreckfish. Encased in bony protrusions, it struggles to move. The gills almost sealed by them. Boring design, but the description does carry it. D tier. The splintered crab and the cortex decorator. Orange, amber, and tissue sprouting from their body. Not as cool as the first crabs. C tier. The Parhelion jellyfish. Two spires emit from the hood as its spiked tendrils trail below. More beautiful than odd with its vibrant colors. A tier. The cursed fang tooth. A small and feeble mind, conquered. Forever screaming powerless in the depths. A sick description with a simple yet freaky design. S tier. The Void Eye. Inside its eye, a perpetual pattern repeats. The abyss burns through you. The description reminds me of Junji Ito's Uzumaki. It's obviously S tier. The Radiant Squid. A beacon from the depths below, a glimpse of the new sky. Oddly disturbing and almost angelic, though this squid probably gets bodied by other fish due to how bright it is. S tier. The Blood Snapper. Blood leaks endlessly from the scales underneath, pooling below no matter the place. Honestly, without the description, I would just think it's another tropical fish. D tier. The Latching Snapper. Swollen flesh folds over its eyes, and its lips cracked with blood. It kinda looks like it's glitching through reality. A tier. The Ruptured Vessel. A willing host or sacrificial pawn. Carried by its description due to the amount of unknown that surrounds this guy. C tier. The Perished Loose Jaw. Its skin ragged and hangs like cobwebs, riddled with small white worms. The description, while being gnarly, its design is just a more pale version of it. C tier. A calcified snailfish, waiting in dormancy for its moment to arrive. It's horrifying not knowing what could be inside of it. B tier. The Seizing Snailfish. With sharp finger-like teeth, its grip apparently feels like being dragged through the depths. I hate the design, it's actually disturbing to me. A tier. The Consumed Grouper. Its once vibrant skin now bleached and eroded. It appears relieved at its final end. Actually pretty sad, holy shit. B tier. The Medusa Octopus has 8 snapping mouths crawling over its body, with its silent master observing. I just wish it was more vibrant, but it's a classic horror design. B tier. The Bursting Anglerfish. Brutality in physical form. Definitely inspired by the xenomorph from Alien. It's simple but terrifying. A tier. The Savage Barracuda. It thrashes violently, tearing at its own flesh while doing so, consumed by hatred. I think it's safe to say that this fish found out that PlayStation raised PlayStation Essential to $80. B tier. I don't even know how to say that. Barracuda. Its body extends with every breath. Nature dissected into mechanical motion. Concertina. Alright, I said it. There you go. That's the only time I'm ever going to try and pronounce it. Bit of a downgrade compared to its other variant. C tier. The Gazing Shark. The most valuable and rare shark in the game. The huge bulbous eyes stand out, siphoning energy from its body. Its search is not over. I was lucky enough to catch this thing early on and used it in the shark altar. Other than that, cool design. A tier. Crown of Nadir. A horrifying gateway to the abyss. It whispers a call from below. Its description and design are S tier, but for the sole purpose of making me crab pot farm for multiple in-game days in over 5 hours, it goes below F tier. Fuck this thing. The Entangled Crab and Imperious Lobster. The crab glistens with sprouts tying and untying each other, while the lobster recoils from the dry air. Yeah, they're mid, C tier. The Entwined Mullet, with twisting and twitching tendrils that move in unison. Just a smaller version of the bearded mackerel. I think the design is better, so it'll go up a tier. The Gleaming Mullet. Its scales swollen and pulsate, liquid shimmering beneath. The thought of this fish is disgusting. B tier. The Blistered Tarpon. Scales with bulbing flesh. Yeah, this is just bland. F tier. The Vortex Interloper. Its body twists and twirls, stretching into an unknown dimension. This design is terrifying and amazing, almost like the fish doesn't even know where its body's headed. S tier. The Clawfish Gar. Its fins now have talons hanging from them, grasping, almost like hands. It doesn't look that much different from the regular gar. F tier. The Grinning Gar. Its muscular gums grow and force its teeth to clash against each other. Truly, the smiling dog of fish. A tier. Twinned eels, endlessly pulling away at each other, but if torn apart, they would perish. And so, they live a spiteful existence. I wonder how they shit. S tier. The Nightwind Catfish. A once slow fish, now given haste by its crimson wings. It resembles a betta fish more than a catfish now. D tier. The Effigy Crab. Its body now resembles a screaming skull with wisps of yellow light flickering beneath. Pretty cool. B tier. The Mire Screecher. A tongue lashing out from the front with 2 human-like eyes bursting out of its claws. Reminds me of the Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth. A tier. The Ossified... no. its small body now encased in a suit of thick bones. It honestly just looks overcooked now. D tier. The infernal eel now has grown fat from the souls of the deep, harbingers of sick mercy. This description is cold as hell, but the design really lacks in a lot of ways. C tier. The serpentine mackerel. It lashes out with its teeth and hisses from its mouth. Just looks like a fish from the abyssal zone. D tier. Tattered mackerel. Its flesh now resembles ribbons flowing throughout water. A lot better than the other one. B tier. Defaced skate. A skate with bone replacing its cartilage and erupting through its skin. A frightening form is beginning to emerge, almost as if a human has been sealed within it and is clawing to get out. A tier. The wrapped shark. Now with a wicked grin turning towards the red sky, ready to take flight with its wings. Not that different, but the teeth are unsettling. There's a reason why so many creepypastas revolved around things that smiled at you. B tier. The twisted shark. Now has 3 tails converging into its body. Now the fish desires thrice the amount it needs normally. The design is more cool than scary, to be honest, but still. A tier. Grasping snail. Bony like fingers extend through a membrane, the eye looking at you frantically. Okay, look at this. I think that's enough of a reason to put it here. The sable reacher. Now has small wings and a gloomy core in the center. Looks pretty normal, to be honest. F tier. The umbral puppet. Its long legs now hang from a black sphere. It waits for the call of the void. It's a spider crab. C tier. The anchovy king. Now in numbers, they will rise. Obviously a fish version of the rat king. If you don't know what that is, look it up, but I warn you, it's pretty disturbing. S tier. The leeching prawn. A parasite wraps the flesh of whatever it's attached to. Yeah, this is just horrifying. A tier. The razor-mouthed tuna. Half teeth, half muscle. Whatever is the prey of it has been met with an unfortunate fate. Fun fact, this was the last aberrant I caught. You would think that would increase its position, but it was really annoying to catch. C tier. The decrepit viperfish. The gnashing teeth being the only hint that its withered body remains alive. Pretty sad looking. B tier. The collapsed viperfish. A sad sight of a fish being engulfed by a red mask. A rejection of the light. Or is it a way to return to the deep? It's a frightening thought to imagine what the fish is experiencing. Obviously in immense pain due to whatever is coming out of it. S tier. Weak. The skeletal moonfish. It's a fucking skeleton, what else do you want me to say? It's definitely a strange sight since it has no organs, at least anything visible. So, A tier. The beaked moonfish. A rocky body with a crushing beak at its disposal now. It's more funny looking than strange. C tier. A congealed rat tail. Its flesh now turning into a thick ooze, secreting a gel that covers its whole body.
That is fucking disgusting.
A tier. The charred sunfish. Its body scorching with cracked scales flaking away. Now this is an overcooked fish. B tier. And finally, the magnum opus of aberrant fish, the glaring sunfish.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
With eyes popping out of its body at all sides, each with its own form of pity. It embodies everything I hate about horror. S tier. Okay, finally, that's it. If you have any disagreeing opinions with me, then feel free to make an hour-long video on why the Shard Ray is S tier. Can we just end this already? No, we cannot end this, because Black Salt Games has announced a new DLC called The Pale Reach. And this was while I was editing this, by the way. However, I'm not going to cover it in this video. I'm sorry.
You failed!
1, I haven't played it yet. And 2, I don't want to extend this video any longer, if I'm being honest. Like, look at the length. Look at it. Tell me about it. And 3, it's not really that relevant to the main story. I heard it does like tie in some stuff and all that, but it's basically a DLC story, and I don't really want to focus on that. I want to focus on the main game. But we'll analyze it here in case you want to buy it. And hey, I spoiled everything else, but I didn't spoil this. So if you're interested in this game, then you can buy the DLC and you'll get a fresh experience. The DLC takes place in the Arctic Ocean with icebergs everywhere. It expands the world a bit more and isn't just like a completely new level, which makes sense because the map has a lot of like open space around it. So there's probably gonna be a couple DLCs, to be honest. Which, hey, I'm a fan of, you know? More content about this game will be great. In the trailer, which is the only gameplay that I've seen so far of this, the merchant does appear, which, yes. Alright, I've already said before that I love the merchant, and I'm glad she's returning. There's a sea monster that looks like a polar bear, narwhal, and seal hybrid, which seems sick. It also has this bright tusk on it, and it looks like the thing from Subnautica Below Zero, like those giant ice worms, you know, they have that glowing horn. The story also looks pretty interesting with this guy being trapped in ice. And also the description hints towards a story about a crew slowly going insane and eventually betray each other. It looks exciting, I'm definitely going to play it later, but I'm not going to do a video on it. I might do a video on it in the future if they do release more DLC. Since, once again, the map is very much open, and if they did that, I would fucking love that. Okay, now, it's finally over. So that was Dredge, and I love this game. I genuinely think it's one of the most scariest and serene games I have ever played. Which doesn't say much, because I only got like Roblox horror games under my belt, to be honest. It's definitely a contender for a top 5 game this year, at least for me. While it does seem shallow at first, the depth of this game is massive. See what I did there? I honestly think this game is a must play, especially if you've played something like Subnautica. Both seem like pretty chill games at first, but in reality are horror games in design. Well, until you get a prawn suit, or like a max upgrade boat. But either way, that atmosphere in the beginning is unmatched. The atmosphere and simplicity of the game is enough to get a purchase, and I would highly recommend you to do so. Even after this video, and just, well, me spoiling everything to be honest, but still, please, buy the game, try it out. If you're new here, I made another video on one of my favorite roguelikes of all time, so feel free to check that out. I mean, you could also subscribe, you know? Please, look, I'm desperate, alright? I also want to shout out my 2 friends, Alicia and Calvin. Calvin with a very minor role as the trader, with his one voice line, and Alicia with the major role as the wife. And boy, we had to do so many retakes, oh my god. I'm sorry if you didn't like their audio. Blame them, not me. Maybe I could have done something to fix it with like Audacity and all that, but I was too lazy to do that, so yeah. You know, blame them, not me. And yes, I used Connor to voice the collector in one of the endings. It was too good not to use it, alright?
And I'd go home and I'd be like, right, now I want to be like fucking mentally challenged. Yeah, that sounds awful.
I'll leave a link below if you want to watch this vid, by the way. By the way, the next video I have planned will be a lot different compared to this one. And hopefully shorter as well. As fun fact, this video was supposed to be 30 minutes. And I hate my life. The next video is also going to be about a multiplayer game, so it's going to be presented a little bit different. I still plan on making long videos like this and my One Step from Eden video, by the way, so if you like this type of content, then don't worry, it's not going away. I just want to try making slightly shorter content, because not gonna lie, making long videos like this are really tiring to make. It's pretty draining, especially when you have those like moments where you're just constantly cutting and cutting and cutting and like adjusting the audio and all that. Like not even doing any like really unique edits, it's just cutting and cutting. Like that's the part where it really gets boring. But don't worry, these type of videos are not going away. I still like making this stuff. I'm just gonna put on a hold for a little bit. By the way, the basis of these shorter videos, they're not really gonna be shorter by the way, like I estimate like 20 to 30 minutes, maybe even 40, maybe even 50, which at that point, is it really that much of a difference? Probably not, but that's a problem for me to deal with later. Anyway, I plan on the shorter videos to be mostly about multiplayer games, considering that they usually don't have a story going on. One Step from Eden was a little bit different, because it did have a story, but also wasn't the main part of it. And it still got to like almost an hour and 30 minutes. Shit. So for now, I'm going to be experimenting with my content, so I hope you can bear with that. Alright, I think I've gotten everything off my chest. Thanks to everyone who subscribed to me for my last video. I was honestly so shocked to see my channel get that many subs. I think I was just over 200, and now I've hit like over 300, which is fucking insane to me. I did not think I would be able to like get that massive of a leap. Also, the critique really helped. Last video, if you couldn't tell, I had a lot of problem with like sound effects and all that. Hopefully they were fixed in this one. I don't think there was too many problems. I definitely adjusted and was way more careful about the sounds this time, but who knows, maybe it's like the same or maybe even worse. I hope it's not the worst. So thank you for all your support and critique. It's definitely boosted my morale into, like, you know, finishing this video because I was really struggling at times. And hopefully the next video won't take like 2 months to make. That's about it. Okay, bye!